Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Tuesday. Brian Kamenetzky, Andy Kamenetzky. Important question, Andy. Is LeBron James back? Follow-up question. What exactly does back mean in season 2000 that he's in? We'll do that next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. This one's always going to be free for you. It's never going to be put behind a paywall. And Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where over 37,000 subscribers are all hanging out, talking to each other, talking to us, leaving questions, leaving comments, and otherwise being part of the number one podcast network, sports podcast network in the universe. As far as we know. Of course, Locked On Lakers is a big part of that, and you are a huge part of making Locked On Lakers one of the biggest shows on this network. So we certainly appreciate it. Love that you're participating, no matter how you get it, through Spotify, Apple, YouTube, however you're doing this. We really appreciate it. We do want to let people know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. So we want to get into one of the interesting statistical quirks. Some people might call it a fluke. Some people might call it a defining characteristic of this team.
I was going to say it's, and I don't know if we'll be able to settle the discussion over the next 30-ish minutes.
Oh, it will be.
But the idea of whether or not it is actually a quirk is a pretty relevant question to be asking in terms of just what you think this team's overall potential is, because what they are doing specifically in clutch time this season so far, it cuts against a lot of what you see in the opening 43 minutes of
all of it,
of the opening 23 games this season. But there's enough there that I don't think it can just be casually dismissed out of hand.
They are 8-0 in what the NBA defines as clutch situations, which is within 5 points with 5 minutes to go. The Lakers are 8-0 in those situations, including Sunday's win against Philly. So we'll get to that. Some we'll start into that on today's show. It could extend, Andy, into tomorrow's, but we got to start with a big question, Andy. Is LeBron James back? Because, man alive, he had a great game on Sunday against the Sixers. He came back. He was aggressive offensively at the beginning. He helped carry the Lakers in a fourth quarter where, and this is not a criticism, the man flew across an ocean. He helped birth a child. He flew back across the ocean. It's a lot. Luka was tired. It's okay. He still had a triple-double, still played well, but Austin Reeves was having a really rough go, and the Lakers needed LeBron James to look like LeBron James, and he did. And this has been after a sort of uneven return from the sciatica. And so we'll ask the question, Andy, is LeBron James back? We'll start there, but I have a follow-up question to that, a corollary, if you will, which is, what exactly does back mean in season 23, 24? Where are we even? I don't even remember.
Season 23 feels like you ought to know that one by now. But
well, it's so many. I never trust myself to exactly remember the number.
Just remember his jersey.
Right.
That's where he's at.
That
23.
seems too easy.
Well, no, it's actually clearly not easy enough because it's
Can
right
he
there.
Change it next year to 24?
No, he absolutely cannot, Brian.
No, that's true.
Certainly on this team.
Not on this team.
You've landed the plane. Be quiet. But anyway, as far as the answer to the question, is LeBron back? How do we know if he's back? If we're really being honest about all this, the answer to both questions is I don't know. Because we are dealing in such uncharted territory right now. Like the idea of what LeBron wants to be doing as a player in season, as we've established, 23, at his age, with this type of mileage. Oh, and by the way, coming off a bout of sciatica, which I believe also Al Horford has been dealing with this season. So, no country for old men.
Stars, they're just like us.
Oof. But LeBron looked great in this game against Philly, and he was crucial in terms of the Lakers winning it. The fourth quarter, he was absolutely instrumental, and I would argue the biggest part of them winning that game. It was clearly the most comfortable, the most physically lively, the most confident that he seemed when he was out there on the floor. Does that mean that's going to be the version that we see against San Antonio on Wednesday? Quite possibly, in the sense that he will have had multiple days off. What does that mean for the rest of the regular season? I honestly have no idea. Last year, LeBron required 2 weeks off from the team because he got off to a very rough start, and eventually he needed to physically and mentally recharge. Hopefully that's not the case again this season, but I don't even think LeBron knows exactly how his body is going to cooperate with trying to keep the sciatica thing under control, the arthritic foot joint under control, the ab strains that he's had over the adductor the last few seasons. He's
probably got gout. Old people get gout.
I mean, look, man, there's a lot of wear and tear that this man's put on his body. I want to be super optimistic that the Philly game was the sign that, hell yeah, dude is back, and we can maintain the realistic but high-end realism expectations for LeBron pushing one in season 23. But to be totally honest, I don't know if it's accurate, but I don't know if that's fair to LeBron.
I look at this in a couple different ways. The first one is from a playing standpoint. Was this flip on the switch and LeBron, found his rhythm and he's good to go? And no, I don't think it's going to be quite that simple. I certainly don't think it's going to be quite that linear to where it suddenly LeBron just from here on out looks like the guy who was second team All NBA last year. You noted the time away. He's played 141 games in the last 2 seasons. I mean, for all the talk of, you have to treat him with kid gloves, and the Lakers have had to work around him, and you've had to make these special concessions and this. He's played 141 games in the last 2 years. That is far more than most stars in the league. Most of them have not played 141 games. So he's been quite reliable in terms of being able to get in the lineup. I do actually think the fact that he's missed so many games this year already, and we'll get to this, I think, in the next segment, actually makes it easier for the Lakers to hold him out more because he will also, he will almost certainly miss enough games at this point that he's not going to be able to be all NBA, all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be off the table.
Which I think, by the way, will dictate how he manages the course of his season in ways that, for what it is worth, I think could be helpful.
I agree. That's what I'm getting at. I think the Lakers will be able to be, because and I'm not saying it's selfish, guys care about this kind of stuff. It's, LeBron just cares about playing. And so he's not going to want to sit out for the sake of sitting out. They also care about, and I would care too in season 23, about the opportunity to be on an all NBA team, because that's pretty cool. So all that, none of this to say that,
it's pretty cool in season 3. I will never begrudge these guys for wanting the awards, wanting the accolades, as long as you don't play out of pocket, gunning to try to get this stuff. I will never, ever criticize a player for wanting to add things to the resume. This is history, man.
Right.
These guys want to be part of history.
Small side note, I'm not sure there are going to be players who are eligible to be all NBA this year. I don't know if anybody will be. There just aren't.
Why are you taking away from first team all NBA Jake LaRavia? I'm just saying.
He's far off.
He's
the
on
amount
pace
of
to
guys
do this.
who are going to be disqualified that you look at and say these are star players in the NBA who simply cannot be on the team. There'll be some changes this offseason. But so I think that will make a difference with LeBron there. But I look at this in two different ways. There are questions of performance and there are questions of health. And obviously, those two things are related, but they are not the same. And I'll explain next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays, man, they move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. And that's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, the receiver gets hot, defenses tighten up, momentum flips after an untimely turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment with live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly, player props that update as guys heat up. It keeps you locked in every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you.
So before we jump back in, do want to let people know that we're doing something new and kind of cool at the network here. You can join the Everydayer Club. So thanks for making us your first listen of Every Day, as we like to tell you every day. You already live on your team every day. Now take it up a level and you can go ad free. Be honest with you, some people complain about them. I understand. If you join the Everydayer Club and get to, and I'm going to read you this URL because it's new to me as well, lockedonlakers.supercast.com. Again, lockedonlakers.supercast.com. You can enjoy Locked On Lakers with no interruptions, members only Discord access, and more. It's $5 a month, $50 a year. Again, you go to lockedonlakers.supercast.com. Check the link in the show notes. You get all the information to understand exactly what this is. We'll be talking about it a little bit more as well, but it's a way for those of you who do want to have a little bit more in the show, find, again, Discord access, ad-free shows, stuff like that. This is a way to do it. So what I was saying in the first segment, Andy, I think it is fairly, for me, I am pretty confident that LeBron, not right away, but over time, as he again gets that rhythm back, is going to look more or less like he has in the last couple seasons. I don't think he'll be quite as good as he was last year. He's 1 year older. There's, I think not having training camp and not having his normal prep is just going to erode how good he can be this year. I think it takes from the ceiling. It would do that for almost any player in the league. So I don't know if he's going to get quite to where he was last year, but I think he'll get close. That to me is a separate question than will he stay healthy? I just don't know how his body is going to respond. To me, not a doctor, but the fact that he missed training camp, the fact that he missed a lot of his prep to go into the season, to me, makes me feel like he is more likely to find an injury at some point in the year. We spent the last 2 years waiting for the big injury to come and never did. Again, 141 games in the last two seasons.
I mean, yes, except he did spend 2 weeks away from the team.
He played 70 games last year. I understand that means he missed he was either 70 or 71. One is 70, one is 71. He stepped away for 2 weeks, still played 70 games. So, okay. Most stars in the league haven't played 70 games in the last two seasons. So I'm not saying there's no injury consideration, but I'm saying last year there was no long-term injury that kept LeBron out. The year before, there was no long-term injury that kept LeBron out. This year, we may have already had the long-term injury that keeps LeBron out. I'm just more concerned because as he said a couple times, this is the first time he's never had his routine. Mm-hmm. And that athletes have a routine for a reason, and his routine has been particularly effective. And so that's the part that concerns me. I am less concerned about how he performs. And I mean, I'll let you respond. Then I have other reasons why I think the performance aspect should be okay. But to me, they seem like separate issues. How well can he play and how many games can he play they are related. They are not the same to me.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like his health is going to dictate in a lot of ways how well he can play. And if he isn't able to play as many games, my guess is it's going to affect his performance. I also think, though, and this is a good thing for both LeBron and the Lakers, based on what we're seeing so far, assuming he can stay on the court, and that is as much a matter of just his body cooperating as anything else, the level that he needs to raise this year isn't as high. Like, he does not actually have to play as high of a level. And while I do think, LeBron has a standard for himself, and if he can't meet a certain threshold of performance, I don't think he wants to play anymore. It's like, it's the same way, I say all the time, if Kobe was not capable of being the number one option, like the focal point of a high-end team, he wasn't interested in playing. And obviously the last few years of his career post-Achilles changed the math on that, because I think Kobe really wanted to beat the challenge of coming back from an Achilles tear. But had that not have happened, if Kobe avoided the Achilles, but he just started dropping off, but was still capable of being like, a quality second or third option, I don't think he would have had any interest in doing that. Like, we covered Kobe for 10 years. That was not really something that would be of interest, because he wanted to play at a certain level. I think LeBron wants to play at a certain level, but the necessity of reaching the highest version of LeBron isn't the same as it was before. And I think now that he, in all likelihood, will not be eligible for an all-NBA team, trying to push himself for that type of threshold is off the table. I think that's good for the Lakers. The fact that Luke is the best player on this team, the fact that Austin Reeves has raised his level this year, the fact that DeAndre Ayton has been a wonderfully, I'm not going to say surprise, because you and I both thought he'd be a really good fit, but for a lot of people, a wonderfully pleasant surprise.
It's gone well. I mean, I thought he'd be really good, but this is like the upper area of where I thought it could be.
Rui
I'm pleased.
Rui is shot for shot one of the most efficient players in the NBA. Like, there's a lot that is going. They're 11 games above 500. There is a lot that lessens the need for LeBron to be whatever peak LeBron at 41 actually means. He doesn't have to. What I do think, though, is interesting is JJ talking about after the Philly game, LeBron, he was asked something to the effect of LeBron, whether that game gave him some confidence, given how rough things were for him against Toronto, other than his playmaking, which was outstanding. And the fact that since he's been back, it's been up and down, and it's been a process. JJ said, quote, I don't think LeBron needs confidence, but it's a fair question, because I do think it's important to be reminded every now and then of what you're capable of. And for him to have injuries and then sort of start the season playing catch up in a way, and start the season playing catch up with a team that is also in a really good rhythm as a player, I don't care how good you are. That's tough to figure out. So tonight was super important. Like, I don't think LeBron has suffered a conscious, a conscious crisis of confidence, that sort of thing. But I will say, against Toronto, he looked uncomfortable and unsure of himself. And Philadelphia was a much different outing. I mean, Kobe in Game 7, against the Celtics, when he was missing every single shot and clearly out of character, when he was at the line, fans weren't chanting MVP. They were chanting Kobe, like a reminder, dude, you're Kobe Bryant. Like, remember who you are. All these guys, even the all-time greats, need that tangible reminder now and then. So I think the Philly game matters.
Oh, I absolutely think it matters. And I'll remember when I said before, like, there are other reasons I'm optimistic. You listed them all. The ascendance of Austin Reeves, the fact that they're 17-6, they've earned some wiggle room. The fact that Luka is Luka, they doesn't need to be like that switch with Austin, where like Austin and LeBron can kind of switch roles. Like, and on any given night, LeBron probably won't. Most given nights, LeBron probably won't need to be the best player, and if he does, he won't need to be the best by a lot. That all makes a huge difference. I think JJ was spot on. I think you're spot on. It's not that LeBron needs confidence because he's LeBron, but like the Toronto game, for example, he looked uncomfortable because I think he was, still rhythms off. When he stepped confidently into a couple third quarter threes, like catch, shoot, like look good out of it. Just those shots didn't fall in Toronto. They did fall in Philly. Like some of that is just shot went down, shot didn't go down. I get it. Like they looked kind of the same to me. Where he really looked like he wasn't sure was in, what do I do in a game where, AR is there or Luka's there? I'm not playing well. Do I, force the issue? Do I let Austin Reeves kind of take us home? What do I do? Because I'm LeBron James. I am used to, I don't care if I'm 4 for 16 to this point. I'm going to take more shots. I'm going to keep doing it. He kind of seemed uncomfortable with what do I do? And so that part of it I found pretty interesting in terms of a confidence question. And I think over time, they'll do a much better job of figuring that rhythm out. How do we do it when we're all three on the court? How do we do it when, AR's having a tough night, but LeBron's feeling good? Luka's always going to do Luka stuff. Like Luka is in. It doesn't matter if I've missed 10 of my first 15 shots in the fourth quarter. I can still do what I want because I'm Luka Doncic. It's exactly how it should be. But, it's not just physically how am I playing, how am I doing? It's also what's the pecking order, what's the rhythm of our team now, and it's different than it used to be. And I think he's very aware of that and is trying really hard not to screw it up.
Yeah, I've said on a few shows, LeBron's role is a work in progress. Thankfully, again, 17-6, it gives you more time to workshop when there isn't desperation fueling the need for an answer ASAP.
Let's ask this question, get into the clutch thing a little bit, because this to me is fascinating. So we'll start the conversation in the next segment, and it will probably carry into Wednesday's show as we get ready for the Cup quarterfinals. Is that your quarterfinals against the Spurs, who have most of their team back. So we'll talk about all that stuff next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Mint Mobile. There is no reason to let big wireless drain your wallet, especially during the holidays. Whew, a lot of spending. Right now, Mint Mobile is running their best deal of the year. All of their unlimited plans, 50% off. That means you can lock in for 3, 6, even 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. It's the easiest way to take your overpriced phone bill and give it the full-on Scrooge treatment. And what makes Mint even better is the simplicity of the switch. There's no contracts, no nonsense, just real savings and real quality service. The service is fast, super reliable, even on the go. Don't pay just to stay connected. Turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. That's mintmobile.com/lockedonnba. Limited time offer, upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan is required. It's the equivalent of $15 a month. Taxes and fees on the initial plan, term only. Under 35 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com.
So let's set the scene here, Andy. The Lakers are now 8-0 after winning in Philadelphia, 8-0 in clutch, what the NBA calls clutch situations, clutch time. Up by 5, game is within 5 points with 5 minutes to go.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking, these things even out. There is, if you are 8-0 in these situations, usually, you're going to get a couple losses thrown in there, just sort of law of averages and all that kind of stuff. That is often the thinking, and it is often the case, that sometimes a record like this can be kind of fluky. However, with the Lakers, statistically, there is some really interesting stuff going on with them in this clutch stretch of games that, if you are a Lakers fan and a Lakers optimist, and I can only presume most of you are, you should feel really good about why and how they got to be 8-0.
First of all, it's all on the defense. Like it is largely fueled by the defense. They have the number one clutch time defensive rating of 85.7, which is effing insane. That's like bad boy Pistons era defense. It is nearly 10 points better than the effing Thunder, who are an amazing defense. It's also responsible for, very, very much responsible for their nearly 27 net rating in clutch time. It's third only behind OKC and Detroit. Their offense in clutch time is 12th, so good, not great. They are the number one clutch time defense for opponent field goal percentage, for opponent 3-point percentage, for opponent effective field goal percentage in the clutch, best. They are top 5 for opponent fast break points, opponent points off turnovers, opponent points in the paint. And those first two categories, the Lakers are bottom 5 to 10 in the league for the entire game as a whole. They are just a completely different team defensively in the last 5 minutes of games. Everybody who has played at least 3 clutch time games has a defensive rating of 92.6 or better. So I'm talking Luka, LeBron, Austin, Rui, Marcus Smart, whose defensive rating in the clutch is 66.7. DeAndre, the lower the better for people who don't know.
You shall not pass.
DeAndre Ayton, Jake LaRavia, they all have defensive ratings in clutch time of 92.6 or lower. Interesting also clutch time wrinkle. Nobody has played minutes in all 8 of the Lakers' clutch time wins. Mm-hmm. Jake and Rui have the most at 7, then Austin and Ayton at 6. Luka has only played in 4, Luka's only played in 4, LeBron only in 3. So the success is not about just being carried by the stars. Their fourth quarter defensive rating.
Real quick though, when you mentioned that earlier when we were sort of prepping for the show and stuff, that was a number that I hadn't seen that you dug up there, and that to me is really indicative of coaching and a group that understands what it is supposed to be doing from top to bottom, and everybody, to the best of their ability, gets in there and plugs in and is capable of executing that plan. That to me is very impressive.
Yeah, their fourth quarter defensive rating, 111.2, is 11th in the league, and it's 5 points better than their overall defensive rating, which is 116.2, 20th. They're playing their best defense in the fourth quarter consistently, and they consistently get better defensively the more the game goes along. Interesting, the best fourth quarter defensive rating among the rotation players, Luka has the best of everybody in the fourth quarter among rotation players. Another wrinkle that I found very interesting about this that I find optimistic, their defensive rating overall and for each quarter better on the road than at home, which tells me, and obviously I'd have to look at every single game and, the road wins and who they played against or whatever, but it speaks to me of they get more focused and dialed in on the road when the circumstances bring out more urgency and more focus in them. Because we've talked before about how this team at times if they can get by on 60% effort and win, they will get by.
By the way, it's true of most, but
Sure. But
crypto.com arena too, you have the stars and the ladies walking around the court all the time to make sure everybody's being seen. Maybe that's a distraction. I don't know.
That should also be what focuses them, man. You play well.
No, you're focused on the wrong thing if you're watching the people.
I'm saying you
walk
could
by.
use that to inspire you. One of those ladies could be your next lady friend.
Well, for some of them, it had better not be.
For some of them, might already be.
Moving on. So real quick, before, because I was shocked by this number when I looked it up. Do you know what Oklahoma City's clutch record is?
Yes, I do, because I just saw this. Is it 10-9? Or
It's
no,
it's 9-1.
9-1. Sorry.
What's surprising to you about that?
That they've had. That's what I was thinking of. That they've had 10 clutch games.
Yes, I didn't think they had that many.
That's what I was thinking. The 10-9. The 10 was stuck in my head.
So yeah, just I found that I was like, I did not think they had that many close games this season. If the Lakers hadn't made these improvements, look, you can't get by like this all year long. There's going to be a time when the Lakers are going to need to play defense and say the second quarter or the first quarter or the third quarter, as well as the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. But
they're playing defense to be fair, they're playing defense in the fourth quarter. I know,
but you understand, but
yes.
they're really playing defense in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. It said, obviously it shows that it's there. But what I think, if their numbers didn't change a whole lot, if it was like, okay, they're a little bit better, or they're really hitting more threes than they did, in the last 5 minutes, they're dialed in and they're hitting a bunch of threes. They're getting really accurate. That would be a red flag, because that will even out. Like your 3-point shooting in the last 5 minutes of a game, that will even out. Your opponent's 3-point shooting in the last 5 minutes of a game will even out. So if the whole thing was built on teams suddenly go from shooting 47% against the Lakers, to 19% in the fourth quarter. Okay, some of that is defense, not all of it is. But the numbers aren't that, it's not that just one thing. You can point to and say everything else is the same, but we're either hitting too many shots or they're not hitting shots. Those things even out. But these are real statistical shifts that happen that make me think that they're going to lose a game in the final 5 minutes at some point this season. They'll lose a few of them, but they could still win more than they lose.
Lakers are going to be practicing on Tuesday. I'm planning on being there, and I want to ask JJ and some of the players, how do they account for this? Because, for example, I rewatched the fourth quarter of the Philly win, and other than noticing just they seem a bit more physical in the way they played a lot of the defense in the fourth quarter. A lot of the switching, I think, is more intentional or has more intentionality. It's definitely intentional. I think sometimes it's too automatic, but they're doing it with more intentionality. I think they're doing it with more physicality that can at least make it more difficult for the opponent, as opposed to what sometimes feels like the opponent dictating the defensive look that they want. There's a certain amount more energy, but I'm wondering if it's about more than just truly locking in for the final 5 minutes or the final 12 minutes. If there's anything schematically that they're doing differently, or anything JJ has or the players have noticed. But there are a few interesting stats about this team. They are undefeated in games where they turn the ball over fewer than 20 times. And I know that, say, 19 turnovers in a game feels too many, and that feels like playing with fire, and that's not a great job taking care of the ball. And yeah, you're right, but it speaks to the idea of they don't necessarily have to play perfect basketball in order to win these games. What they do, though, need to avoid is passing the threshold of shooting themselves in the foot or doing the things that often reflect a lack of focus that lead to excessive turnovers in the first place.
I hold that thought because there are some numbers of sort of how their offense operates that I do think as the season goes along could become a little bit worrisome. I will explain what that means. We'll talk more about this. Let us know what you think about LeBron James, your confidence in what he's going to look like going forward. How confident are you that he's going to play the next, whatever it is, 50 something games that they've got left? All that stuff. Leave us questions, leave us comments on the YouTube page. We like to use that stuff on the show. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 37,000 subscribers. Thanks again for being part of the #1 podcast in the universe, #1 sports podcast network in the universe. And we will see everyone tomorrow.